And you have to instill that type of feeling in an organization.
General Manager Ron Wolf said when you interviewed for the job, within 15 minutes of your interview, he realized that you were a leader of men.
Well, it's very nice, first of all, Ron, to say. We worked wonderfully together. For my first experience as a head coach in this business, I was extraordinarily lucky to have a mentor and a general manager like Ron. You know, I learned so much from him. I think if I have a strength, though, it's getting the ability to communicate with folks and to try and have them understand what the vision is and perhaps how we can get there.
In Seattle, 2005, you led your team to the Super Bowl. Talk about that season.
Well, it's always a special, special thing. You know, I can remember our owner out there, Paul Allen, telling me not long after I was hired, if we can ever do this, the people of Seattle, they will be as happy and be as with you as any fans in the country. We created an environment there at the stadium that it was the place to be. And it was a giant party. And everyone enjoyed it. Our fans were such an important part of any success we had. And then to see young guys like Sean Alexander and Matt Hasselbeck kind of come and mature right about at the same time. So our core group of players there really took that team on their shoulders, and it wound up with an opportunity to play in that wonderful game.
You once said on building a championship team in Seattle that you have to raise the bar, players have to play at a higher level. With that philosophy, how do you apply that in your current position as a man who not only oversees a team but oversees a whole organization?
I know this, that you start with the football team. If the football team performs and our fans like what they see and understand how hard we're working and can get behind that, then it makes all the other stuff work much better. So, you know, it's a total team effort. You know, it's a tremendous challenge, but you know, in my brief time here, I am convinced we can do this, and there are many, many people already here that believe we can do it. So now it's just a matter of driving the bus a little bit, get everyone on board and drive the bus.
Coming up next, Mike Holmgren tells us about the most significant victory in his coaching career, and his answer may surprise you.
With 174 career wins and a Super Bowl victory on his resume, Mike Holmgren's reputation as an NFL coach is unquestioned. However, one of the most valuable lessons he learned in his career came from losing in the high school ranks. Well, let's go back to Sacred Heart High School in San Francisco, where you unfortunately lost 22 straight games, and you really thought about getting out of coaching altogether.
You had to bring that up.
I'm sorry.
I know.
But I'd just like to know about that time, because you actually thought about getting into real estate, and talk about that time in your career.
Well, you know, I had finished my own pro career and moved back to San Francisco where I grew up, went back to school, got my secondary teaching credential, and then went to work at Sacred Heart High School, which is a parochial school in downtown San Francisco. And a friend of mine was a head coach, asked me to come and coach, and so the first 2 years we didn't win a game. We were competitive, we were scrappy, but we didn't have a football field. It was an inner city school, and some of the teams we played against had players on their teams in that Catholic league out there. Lynn Swan, Dan Fouts. I mean, we went up against some very, very good players, and we were a little overmatched. Played them tough, but anyway, we lost the games, all of them. So I went after the second year, and I told my friend and head coach, I said, Steve, I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. We've been working awful hard, and I'm not going to business with my father, who was in real estate at the time. And he goes, don't do it now. We put too much in this. You're good at this. You know, he really encouraged me. And so I said, I'll give it one more go. Then the next year we won 3 or 4 games, I think, and it was fun I remember the first win we had after the 22 losses. And I've told this to any number of people. I didn't feel any better winning the Super Bowl than I did that day. I mean, it was an unbelievable feeling. The parents were crying, the kids were crying, I was crying. It was just, we finally won a game. And so I'm glad I did that. And of course, I owe him a great debt of gratitude because he kept me coaching, and I had no idea I'd be in professional football, but I found out I was a pretty good teacher and a pretty good coach, so that was a good thing.
At the Sacred Heart, you found success as a QB coach at BYU. It was then you got an unexpected break. Tell us about that.
A friend of mine phoned me from California when I was at BYU and said, I think the quarterback coach is leaving. Why don't you apply with the 49ers? Now, people outside of this business think people just do that. That's not what happens, you know. You have to know somebody, or someone has to phone for you, or it's a little harder than just phoning somebody up and say, I want to interview. But I did that. I wound up just phoning there, and I had known a couple of guys on the staff just a little bit, and to make a long story short, I was granted an interview. So I flew in. Coach Walsh knew I was from San Francisco, knew I'd come from kind of a passing background, and we had a great interview, I thought. And then, but I was under no false pretense. I said, this would be a great experience for me. There's no way this is going to happen. And so when I left, he says, you know, I really have someone for this job. I really have someone in mind. But if that doesn't happen, now, I've said that to people. Fast forwarded a few years later, and really what that means is, thanks very much, see you later, you know. So I went back to BYU, and then a couple weeks later, Coach Walsh phoned me and said, well, would you like the job? And I said, just a second. I put my hand over the phone, went, yes! And tried to act very cool. Yeah, I think so. What are you going to pay me? But, so that's how it happened.
And you went on to have a successful career there, but talk about the experiences and what you pulled away from that.
I was the quarterback coach for the 49ers. Coach Walsh, who was the head coach, and they'd already been to a couple Super Bowls, and you know, he's one of the brilliant football minds ever. But he was a quarterback coach himself, you know, in his younger days. And so he was very, very hard on me. And at the time, I can remember sometimes going, man, this is hard, you know. I said, if I ever become a head coach, I'm not going to treat my quarterback coach this way. You know what happened? I became a head coach, and Steve Mariucci, Andy Reid, John Gruden, I treated them all that way. I was hard on them. But what I learned from Bill, I remember a couple things. One thing is he always used to say, strive for perfection. He was so meticulous and really asked us to do the impossible. One story with Jerry Rice. I remember Joe Montana throwing a pass to Jerry Rice in practice, and I'm there, and I completed the ball. He just moved his hands a little bit this way, caught the ball, and Bill is about 20 yards away from me and just started, Mike, yelling at me, you know. I want that ball thrown 6 inches in front of the numbers. Not there, I want it thrown here. And I was thinking to myself, you know, you're kind of embarrassed, you got yelled at. I'm thinking to myself, that's impossible. I mean, it was a great throw, great catch, we got it done. I didn't see the point at that exact moment, but down the road,